The most mysterious disappearance in Europe. In the summer of 2014, 28-year-old German tourist Lars Mittank traveled to Bulgaria with a group of friends. They chose Golden Sands, a bustling resort town on the Black Sea coast, famous for its beaches, nightclubs, and cheap beer. Lars was described as cheerful, easygoing, and full of energy. It was supposed to be just another summer holiday. But what began as an ordinary trip soon turned into one of Europe's most enduring mysteries. Within a week, Lars would vanish into thin air, his final moments caught on a chilling airport surveillance video that millions of people around the world would later watch in disbelief. Golden Sands, known locally as Zlatni Piasatsi, sits along the Black Sea coast of Bulgaria. By 2014, it had become one of the most popular destinations for young Europeans. Cheap flights, affordable hotels, and a reputation for wild nightlife made it a magnet for students and 20-somethings. Bars advertised all-you-can-drink deals, and clubs blasted music until sunrise. For many, it was the perfect place for a carefree summer escape. For Lars Mittank and his group of friends from northern Germany, the choice was obvious. They were in their late 20s, football fans looking for sun, sea, and a good time. The World Cup was underway, giving their nights an extra spark. Every bar had a screen, every game drew a crowd, and national pride was on full display. At first, everything went according to plan. The group spent long days at the beach, playing football on the sand, laughing, and drinking cheap beer from local kiosks. In the evenings, they hopped from one bar to another, celebrating Germany's strong performance in the tournament. Lars, usually described as cheerful and relaxed, seemed to be in his element. Friends later said he was joking, dancing, and enjoying himself as much as anyone else. Nothing suggested that this trip would end any differently from the countless other holidays young tourists had in Golden Sands every summer. But nightlife in Golden Sands had a darker side. Petty crime was common, fights broke out among drunken tourists, and locals sometimes warned visitors to watch their wallets and avoid trouble. For Lars, this darker side would soon emerge in a way no one could have predicted. After the scuffle with other German tourists, Lars's ear continued to bother him. At first, his friends thought it was just swelling from the fight, but Lars complained of sharp pain, pressure, and even muffled hearing. The group suggested he visit a doctor, something tourists in Golden Sands rarely did unless absolutely necessary. The examination revealed a ruptured eardrum. In medical terms, this is a tear in the thin membrane that separates the outer ear from the middle ear. Symptoms can include sudden pain, fluid leakage, dizziness, and temporary hearing loss. For travelers, the biggest risk is air travel. Doctors explained that flying with a ruptured eardrum could be extremely dangerous. The change in cabin pressure during takeoff and landing might cause excruciating pain, worsening of the tear, permanent hearing loss, or even balance issues mid-flight. In rare cases, it can lead to long-term complications. Because of this, the doctor strongly advised Lars not to fly home with his friends. He was prescribed antibiotics to prevent infection and painkillers to manage discomfort. While these medications are common, they can have side effects, especially when mixed with alcohol, drowsiness, nausea, or in rarer cases, increased anxiety and paranoia. This left Lars in a difficult position. His friends had to return to Germany as planned, but he was stuck in Bulgaria. They urged him to take care of himself and promised they'd see him soon. Lars reassured them, but inside, he was anxious. He had never traveled alone before, and now he found himself stranded in a foreign country, injured and forced to rely on strangers. It was a turning point. From this moment on, Lars's story began to drift away from an ordinary holiday mishap into something much darker. After his friends flew back to Germany, Lars checked into a small budget hotel near Varna. What should have been just a few quiet days of rest quickly became unsettling. The carefree tourist from the week before seemed to disappear, replaced by a young man who appeared increasingly restless and paranoid. Hotel staff later recalled that Lars was acting strangely. He was nervous, often pacing in the hallways, looking over his shoulder as if someone might be following him. One report suggested he even left the hotel late one night and didn't return until hours later, looking shaken and exhausted. Most concerning of all were the phone calls he made to his mother, Sandra. His words painted the picture of a man who felt hunted. In one call, he whispered urgently, "Don't talk too loud, they can hear us." In another, he begged her to cancel his credit cards immediately. When she asked why, Lars simply replied, "I don't feel safe here." At times, he insisted men were after him. Other times, he claimed he was being watched. Sandra was deeply alarmed. Her son had never shown signs of mental illness before, and now he was speaking in riddles, his tone shifting between panic and resignation. She urged him to come home as soon as possible. Yet even as Lars tried to reassure her, his actions told a different story. He became convinced that someone or something was closing in on him. And all of this built up to his final haunting day. On the morning of July 1st, 2014, Lars made his way to Varna Airport. He had booked a flight back to Germany and, at least on the surface, seemed ready to return home. Before leaving, he stopped at a local doctor's office one last time. The physician re-examined his ear, noted it was still healing, and gave him a prescription for antibiotics. The doctor told him he was cleared to fly. A taxi brought him to the airport around 5 a.m. Security cameras captured much of what happened next, and these images would later haunt millions. At first, Lars appeared calm. He walked through the terminal carrying his backpack, wearing shorts and a yellow t-shirt. He looked like any other traveler preparing to fly home. But when he entered the airport's medical office to fill his prescription, something suddenly changed. The doctor later reported that Lars became visibly agitated. He muttered that he didn't want to take the medication, suspicious that it might harm him. Witnesses recalled him acting nervous, pacing the small room, clutching his bag tightly. Then, without warning, Lars stood up, left his belongings behind, including his wallet, passport, and phone, and bolted out of the office. Surveillance footage shows him sprinting through the terminal, pushing past startled travelers. Cameras outside the building captured the most chilling images. Lars running across the parking lot at full speed, climbing over a fence, and disappearing into the field surrounding the airport. From there, witnesses say he continued toward a wooded area. And then, nothing. Lars Mittank was gone. His luggage remained untouched inside the airport. His personal documents, money, and phone were left behind. Everything that tied him to his life in Germany was sitting in that building. But Lars himself had vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. In the hours after Lars disappeared, Bulgarian police treated the case as urgent. The fact that his passport, phone, and wallet were left behind made it clear he had not planned to disappear voluntarily. Authorities began by searching the area surrounding Varna Airport. This included open fields, wooded patches, and several industrial zones. The terrain was challenging. Tall grass, abandoned warehouses, and scattered farmland created countless hiding places. Search dogs were brought in to pick up his scent, and helicopters scanned the region from above. Despite the intensity, there was no sign of Lars. Witnesses gave conflicting statements. Some claimed to have seen a man matching Lars's description running toward the nearby highway, possibly trying to hitchhike. Others thought they spotted him entering the forest, but none of these leads were ever confirmed, and no security footage outside the airport ever surfaced. Bulgarian authorities interviewed airport staff, doctors, and taxi drivers who might have encountered him. They also checked local hospitals and shelters, suspecting he might have collapsed or sought help. Nothing came back. German police collaborated with their Bulgarian counterparts, but after the first weeks, progress stalled. Without hard evidence, the investigation slowed to a trickle. Files remained open, but new leads were rare. Meanwhile, the release of the airport footage brought worldwide attention. Millions of viewers were mesmerized and horrified by the sight of a young man sprinting out of an airport in apparent terror. The haunting image made headlines across Europe, turning Lars into a symbol of unsolved disappearances. TV programs in Germany featured interviews with his mother, Sandra, who pleaded for information. The case became one of the most viewed mysteries on YouTube, spawning hundreds of videos and endless speculation. Despite the attention, all physical searches ended in dead ends. The forest yielded nothing. No clothing or belongings were discovered, no confirmed sightings were ever made. Over time, the official investigation lost momentum. For the police, Lars became another cold case, but for his mother, the search never ended. The disappearance of Lars Mittank has fueled speculation for nearly a decade. Without hard evidence, theories have multiplied, each attempting to explain why a young man would suddenly run out of an airport and never be seen again. Doctors have noted that paranoid schizophrenia often emerges in men between the ages of 20 and 30. Lars was 28, right in the risk window. The timing of his sudden paranoia, his whispers about being followed, and his rejection of medication are all consistent with the onset of such a disorder. Some also focus on the antibiotics he was prescribed. He had been given ceftriaxone, a drug sometimes linked in rare cases to neuropsychiatric side effects. Combined with painkillers and days of drinking alcohol, the medication may have triggered confusion, anxiety, or paranoia. If true, his sprint out of the airport might have been the result of a terrifying hallucination rather than a real threat. Golden Sands has long been known as more than just a tourist paradise. Bulgarian police have acknowledged problems with organized crime groups operating in the area, ranging from drug dealers to men offering prostitutes and extorting tourists. Some theorists believe Lars may have gotten caught in a dangerous situation, perhaps connected to the bar fight earlier in the trip. Maybe he angered the wrong people, or perhaps he owed money. His mother's memory of him whispering, "They're coming for me," fits this theory. If true, his run from the airport might have been a desperate attempt to escape a threat waiting inside. More sensational theories propose that Lars was targeted for human trafficking or organ harvesting. Supporters of this theory point to how healthy, young male tourists sometimes vanish in Eastern Europe under mysterious circumstances. However, there is no direct evidence tying Lars's case to such crimes. These theories survive largely because of the disturbing imagery of him running for his life. Could Lars have chosen to vanish? Some suggest he may have wanted to escape personal problems back in Germany, debts, stress, or relationship issues. Yet there is no evidence of this. Friends and family say he had no financial troubles and no reason to disappear. More importantly, leaving behind his passport, phone, and wallet makes this explanation almost impossible. In modern Europe, surviving without identity documents is extremely difficult. On platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and Facebook, Lars's story has become almost legendary. Some claim the airport doctors or staff were part of a sinister plot. Others connect his case to secret experiments or government surveillance. Still others believe he witnessed something criminal, perhaps a drug deal or violent act, and was silenced. While these ideas are dramatic, they lack any factual foundation, but they highlight just how disturbing the case is. Watching the footage of Lars running, seemingly terrified, convinces many that something more had to be going on. What makes the case of Lars Mittank even more disturbing is how it resembles other mysterious disappearances, yet still stands apart because of the chilling video evidence. In the United States, Maura Murray vanished in 2004 after crashing her car in New Hampshire. Despite intense searches, no trace of her was ever found. Like Lars, her disappearance sparked massive online debate, with theories ranging from voluntary escape to foul play. Another often cited comparison is Brandon Swanson, a 19-year-old who disappeared in Minnesota in 2008 after his car got stuck in a ditch. While speaking to his parents on the phone, he suddenly said, "Oh, sss," and the line went dead. He was never seen again. These cases highlight a chilling reality. Even in modern times with phones, cameras, and global media, people can still vanish without a trace. Lars's case, however, is unique because we can actually see his final moments on video. Unlike Murray or Swanson, Lars's disappearance wasn't into thin air. It was caught step by step, as if we were watching a nightmare unfold in real time. On platforms like Reddit, Lars's story is one of the most discussed unsolved mysteries. Threads with thousands of comments dissect every second of the airport footage. Some users argue he was suffering a drug-induced psychosis. Others insist he was running from actual criminals, citing Bulgaria's reputation for organized crime. A smaller group leans toward government or corporate conspiracy, claiming his disappearance had to be covered up because it happened in such a public place. The common thread across all these discussions is the haunting sense that we are missing just one crucial detail, one piece of the puzzle that would make everything fall into place. For Lars's family, his disappearance was more than a mystery. It was a daily torment that stretched on for years. His mother, Sandra Mittank, became the central figure in keeping the case alive. Sandra traveled to Bulgaria multiple times, walking through the fields and forests near Varna Airport where her son had last been seen. She spoke to locals, handed out flyers with his picture, and pleaded with authorities to expand the search. Each journey was emotionally crushing, but she refused to stop. She said, "I cannot let go. Somewhere, someone must know what happened to Lars." Sandra gave countless interviews on German television, appearing on missing persons programs such as Aktenzeichen XY, Ungelöst, Germany's version of America's Most Wanted. These appearances kept Lars's case in the public eye. Newspapers across Europe reported on her fight, often using still images from the airport footage. Online, his story gained a global following. Social media campaigns spread Lars's photo worldwide, and groups dedicated to solving his mystery appeared on Facebook and Reddit. Some of these communities grew to tens of thousands of members, all speculating, sharing theories, and vowing to help Sandra find her son. Over the years, numerous alleged sightings surfaced. A homeless man in Poland, a hitchhiker in Romania, even a hospital patient in Germany, all were said to resemble Lars. Each tip raised Sandra's hopes, sending her on new searches. But every time, disappointment followed. None of them were Lars. Sandra has described the agony of living in uncertainty. She often said that if Lars had died, she could grieve and find closure. But without answers, she is trapped in limbo, caught between hope and despair. In one of her most emotional interviews, she admitted, "Sometimes I dream that Lars comes home, that he walks through the door. Until then, I cannot stop searching." Her relentless fight kept the case alive in headlines, but it also highlighted the unbearable cost of not knowing. For Sandra, the silence was the cruelest punishment of all. More than a decade has passed since Lars Mittank ran out of Varna Airport and disappeared into the Bulgarian countryside. Despite international searches, media attention, and countless online theories, not a single confirmed trace of him has ever been found. The unanswered questions remain haunting. Why did Lars suddenly grow paranoid during those final days? Was it a medical crisis triggered by injury or medication? Or was he truly being followed by someone who meant him harm? And most importantly, where did he go after those final images caught on camera? For his mother, Sandra, and for everyone who has followed this case, the mystery is unbearable precisely because it feels like it should have an answer. Unlike so many disappearances, we can see Lars's last moments. We can watch him sprint out of the airport, terror etched into his every movement, and then nothing. That void, that silence, is what makes the story of Lars Mittank one of the most disturbing and enduring mysteries of our time. As the years have passed, the mystery of Lars Mittank has only grown more haunting. In 2024, the case marked its 10th anniversary, a painful milestone for his mother, Sandra. A decade of searching, of chasing false leads, of hoping for a phone call that never came. Each year that passes deepens the silence. With no body, no confirmed sightings, and no new evidence, the unanswered questions remain as sharp as they were on the first day. Why did Lars suddenly panic in the airport? Was he truly in danger, or was his mind betraying him? And how can a man simply vanish in an era of cameras and technology? The image of him running through Varna Airport has become a lasting symbol of unresolved disappearances. It is replayed again and again online. Millions of people watching, searching for some hidden clue in his desperate movements. For his family, though, the video is not a puzzle. It is a wound. It captures the last time they ever saw him alive, the final seconds before he stepped out of their world forever. And so, the story of Lars Mittank remains one of the most chilling unsolved cases of modern times. A young man on holiday, reduced to a ghost in a grainy video, leaving behind nothing but questions. What do you think happened to Lars? Could this have been a tragic medical crisis, or was there something darker at play? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Every secret waits to be revealed. Every silence that carries an echo, every story is waiting to be told. What about yours? What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments. Every voice matters. Subscribe and step into the echoes of truth.